Sometimes, real life is stranger than fiction. This is a reality trip with Fama Jr.
Hello, everybody. This is Fama Jr. You are listening to Reality Trip. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. If this is the first time that you have joined us on the podcast and you are on our Facebook page at facebook.com/realitytripper, you can check us in the live broadcast there. Leave your comments, leave your suggestions, hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, you can check us out, hit subscribe on our YouTube page. And of course, if you're listening on Stitcher and you're listening on iTunes, make sure you subscribe there for the audio podcast. Anyways, thank you for joining me today. My name is Fama Jr. I am a documentary filmmaker. I have a brand new documentary film out called Reasons to Believe. You can check out the website at reasonstobelievefilm.com. We have all the interviews, all the media clips. It's a film about the psychology of belief, why people believe all the shit that they believe and the reasons why they don't change their mind. Now, we're going to be releasing this film on September 11th online on Amazon and Vimeo. So if you want to check us out at benfamajr.com, you can check out our release date and find stuff there. And of course, in September 9th, we will be in Portland, Oregon at the Portland State University to do a live screening with Peter Boghossian. It'll be my wife and I and Peter Boghossian at the screening. And after the show, we'll be doing a live Q&A there. So Peter Boghossian, you guys know, is in the film, and you'll be able to ask questions. And I'll be right before our actual release date. And so that's exciting. So if you want to check that out, go to my website at benfamajr.com, and you can get tickets there. So anyways, I am really, really excited to have my next guest today. Now, this is our 2-year anniversary. I've had the podcast for about 2 years, and the very, very first episode I ever had, I had my next guest, Rue, with. And I have a long history with Rue. Rue is actually one of the directors the director of the film school that I used to go to, and now she is a prolific writer. She wrote the Lake Effect series, which is when you were on the podcast first. That's what we talked about first, was the Lake Effect series.
Yes, that was correct.
And then you have the Chronicles of Hawthorne. So I'm happy to bring you back for our 2-year anniversary, and thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good.
So let's catch up. It's been about a year. You just released the first book of the Chronicles of Hawthorne when you were here last? Or were you on the second one? I don't remember.
I think it was the first one.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was the first one because these 4 have all been in this last year. So
right.
I think it was the first one.
So what you been doing for about a year?
So I've been writing.
Yeah?
So I have that's the series I'm working on now, The Chronicles of Hawthorne. And when I was here was the first book, An Average Curse. So since then, I've released Key to the Journey, The Shadow Calls, and then this 4th book, which I brought Taken by the Shadow. So this is the 4th book, and there's 8 books. So I'm halfway through, basically.
Cool.
And I'm working on the next book in that series as one of my projects. I'm trying to do more multitasking with the writing.
Okay. Now, for some people, and this might be their first time watching it, I recommend going back into the podcast, but briefly, why don't you give a synopsis about the book and what it's about?
Absolutely.
Or the series.
So the series is a fantasy series, and it's kind of a reader who likes the Harry Potter stuff, a reader who likes Philip Pullman's, his Dark Materials, Golden Compass, Amber Spyglass, that kind of thing, would definitely be into it. But also Lord of the Rings, Daughter of the Forest, that kind of thing, because it's epic fantasy, but it's a female heroine. So it's a young girl who has to struggle through issues with self-esteem and self-confidence and that sort of thing. She's born to fulfill this prophecy, but she can't. Right. And so the series is exploring what she has to go through and what she has to confront and who helps her and who hinders her, along the way, as she kind of has to essentially find herself in order to be able to fulfill her destiny.
Right. Now, I don't know if we talked about this last time we were talking, but what made you shift from the Lake Effect series to this series? Why was there's a slight genre change here. So what made you decide?
So the Lake Effect series is really kind of romantic comedy. And I think it probably has a lot to do with my attention span. Shit bores me. But legitimately, I like reading so many different genres, just like I like watching so many different kinds of movies. I mean, I like watching Deadpool as much as I like watching Dive, which is a short documentary about people living out of the food that they're able to get from dumpsters.
Right.
I like a lot of different things, and I think variety is kind of what keeps me interested. And so for me, to write one genre forever, I mean, that's just not who I am. I'm not lead child. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right.
like I know I'll never be able to do that. Even as much as I really like writing the fantasy genre, I know I'm not going to write another fantasy series when I finish this. I've already got other stuff going on. You know, like I said, I'm trying to do the multitasking now, so I'm actually working on editing a completely standalone, more in the romance mystery kind of genre. But the kind of the thread that runs through is I try to integrate my characters. In other words, in the Lake Effect series, it's really about two sisters. One sister's straight, one sister's a lesbian. They have highly religious parents who don't accept either of them, you know, and the struggles that they go through in finding love, losing love, trying to find themselves, you know, all of that sort of thing. And in the Chronicles of Hawthorne, again, it's different types of people, different ages of people, different levels of magic, you know, having to work together, having to find the common versus finding what's wrong with you, why I don't like you. It's like, you know, what's the same about us that makes us able to work together kind of thing.
Right, right.
So that's kind of the common thread is I like writing strong female characters. And I like putting people with different backgrounds together and finding the commonality sort of thing. So that even though I jump around with genres, if people like that part of my writing, that style of my writing, the strong female character kind of thing, and women being able to help themselves versus a man always having to swoop in and save them. I mean, I know a lot of romance is about the tall, dark, and handsome guy that comes in and saves the day, and that's not how my books work. You know, even if there is a tall, dark, and handsome guy, they meet on equal terms in the end, kind of thing. You know, so it's more about writing characters that give women something to be proud of, even if it's comedy, even if it's fantasy. You know, there's something in there that they're like, yeah, I can feel that, I get that. Just a weird random example, because I was working on some stuff and going through a stock photo site, and I was searching for some clip art, and I type in author. Everything that comes up is the profile of a man or a man's hand holding a pen.
Right, right.
I put in writer, and all of a sudden it's women with ponytails and glasses and cute little faces, and it's like, really? What was with author? How come none of the women's photos are tagged
It's a
author?
stereotype already.
What the hell's up with that? So I feel like I don't care if it's 2017. You know, there's still a lot of little girls out there who don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if Xena had been a show when I was a little girl, I guarantee you my life would have turned out differently.
Wow.
You know, it's just I get how we try, like with Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yeah. Which I still haven't seen, but I've heard so much about it. So
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I if the whole movie took place on the island, I think it would have been awesome as hell. But as soon as we took her out of there and we have to put her in a skimpy little outfit and all laws of physics cease to exist.
Right.
And she can pick up a tank and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure. But then she just is a curator at a museum at the end of the day.
Now I got to see it even more because I don't really watch fictional films that much, but I've heard so many people posting and I see it on Facebook and I thought, okay, well, I mean, I don't know, and I mean, I'm glad that I'm seeing more women.
You let me know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I mean,
let me know.
I mean, you know me. If I don't like it, I'll be like, I don't like this shit at all.
There was a crying baby in the theater the entire time, so that may have affected a little bit of my thing.
Cognitive bias. So
cognitive bias. Yep.
So do you think that's reflective of where women are in the arts and stuff? I mean, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because a lot of the conversations I've been having lately in the community that I'm in is actually about feminism, ironically, and where women are and their roles in society and stuff. Do you see these leading women roles being a change in our society? Do you think they're being reflective accurately? Do you see feminism going in the direction that you think it should be represented, or do you feel like it's kind of going 180 in the opposite direction? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think honestly, I think there's not a right or wrong answer to that because it depends on where you are. It depends on what your socioeconomic status is. It depends on what your education level is. You know, there's just so many factors that are involved in that, because for every woman who's like, yeah, I'm kicking ass and taking names, I'm making the 6-figure a year job, I've got kids, I've got nannies, I've got, you know, I'm doing it all, baby.
Right.
There's another single mom who's working 3 jobs, whose 5-year-old kids fucking taking care of themselves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like, technically, statistically, women are still not earning as much as men, blah, 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 blah. But is the political system we're in doing anything to really change that? Or are they working in an opposite direction? Because somewhere along the line, this minority of people got really loud. And so even though they don't maybe represent everyone's views or even the majority's views, they got really loud. And they got the attention of their congressmen. And so now we probably need to take some stuff away from women because maybe they were getting just a little too full of themselves. So maybe we just don't let them have birth control, and then they just got to stay home and raise those babies.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, really? Because you look at any country that gets more education for females, they start having less babies.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, this is what happens.
And when women are more educated,
there's other stuff.
Yeah, the economy gets better too when you see women who are more educated too. So
nothing against having kids, you know, whatever. Yeah. I got a couple, but
we have enough of them. I'm sorry,
but there's plenty.
There's already enough people on this planet. Sorry.
And just having it be like, oh, look what our Bama looks like. It's just like, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. I get it. Everyone makes their own choices, but I know a lot of people who are choosing not to have kids now, you know, who are pursuing whatever it is, their creative passion, their scholastic passions, their traveling passion, you know, whatever it is, and not to have kids. And they're like, well, if we decide, we change our mind, you know, we'll adopt. Great. Fantastic.
Right.
How many goddamn kids are there that need a home, you know, like a crap ton? So, I don't know. I get that people look at that like, well, you already had kids, so how do you get to say what happens? And it's like, I don't. You can do whatever the hell you please. But this is the world you're bringing them into. These are the choices they're left with.
Right.
So
right.
Maybe think about that. Because when I had mine, 30 and 20 years ago, it was a little bit different world.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I just think that's why I focus on the strong female role model thing in my writing in whatever little way that I can, because it's like I just feel like no matter what happens, there still aren't enough of those stories for girls. And you can't just force it, Yeah. You'll see sometimes in these films where they're so hung up on minority casting that they pick a woman for a role or they pick a certain minority for a role that doesn't even make sense in the plot.
Right.
But they're just desperate to check that box.
They're just virtual signaling, saying, "Oh, look, we have a black person, we have a woman here, we have this," and look, I'm all about that. Like,
right? It's like great opportunities.
But I think people are pushing too much of it now. It's like.
It's like, here's an idea. Instead of regurgitating all these stupid-ass stories that are from when everyone was white in acting and all films were filled with white actors, how about write a new goddamn thing specifically for minorities, if that's your thing?
Right, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, make a story that makes sense. Don't just go, well, I'm going to cast this Native American person, plunk, and then they're going to say stuff about tracking things, and that's gonna make everyone happy. It's like, no, that's ridiculous.
Do you think that happened with Ghostbusters? Like, they try to make it all. I mean, not that I care. I mean, I'm glad that they did it, but I'm starting to feel like people are just trying to put the roles in because they say there's not enough women in filmmaking, and I agree. I'd love to see more women, but just sticking people in and saying
making a shitty script and putting women in it doesn't do anything for women.
Yeah,
that was a crap script, and go ahead and. Hit me up on Facebook and complain about that. But I stand by it no matter what. That was a crap script. Yeah. Because you cannot put 4 women that fucking talented in the same room and piss out that piece of crap. You can't. You just can't. And I would go to watch it just because they're in it and I want to support women in film. But I wouldn't go on, Rotten Tomatoes and give it a thumbs up review or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like or whatever. I mix my... reviewing metaphors.
Why do you think that is, though? I mean, obviously, I came from a film school where you were the director of the film school, and I had a lot of respect for you as a director of the film school, and I find that you're a very independent, very hardworking person, which I respect. And I just find in this industry, there's not a lot of people out there or I don't find a lot of women in this industry for some reason. Do you think it's Do you really think it's sexism, or do you feel like women just don't feel like they have a place? Like, why do you think that there aren't more women filmmakers out? Because I've seen them and they're phenomenal when they do it, but why isn't there more of them?
I think a lot of it is sexism. I think, there's kind of two schools of thought in Hollywood. It's like, yeah, you want to play with the big boys? Well, then you better fucking step up and play.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, that's great. But is that the environment that we really need to create? And then you kind of get that, it's almost like that fraternity hazing mentality. It's like, well, I had to put up with shit when I came in. So that's why I'm not going to put a hand down to you and help you up. Because that's not what, nobody did that for me. I had to fight my way up. It's like, well, really? Is that how we're going to help people? It's just ridiculous. When people who are just starting out writing email me and ask me a question, I freaking answer. I tell them everything that I can, I don't know everything. I'm still figuring shit out too. But why wouldn't you help someone? Why wouldn't you do that?
Ego, fear.
It's just really strange because I've worked on films that are majority male crew, and that's pretty typical. But I also worked on films that were almost 80% female, and both of those crews were able to make movies. Yeah. So,
When I made Invisible Truth, I mainly had women for that reason. I wasn't trying to placate to it, but I just was like, I'll give just to see. And I think it still turned out for a student film that it was a good film. And I think I just wanted to break a paradigm where people say, well, you only need to do that, whatever. I fucking hate rules, you know me. So, but it just, I was just wondering that, and I'm struggling right now with my position when it comes to a lot of things. When it comes to like Mason and I always talk about feminism and. Like, I obviously I support feminism in many ways. There's a lot of things now that I'm starting to kind of get turned off at the same time, that I'm starting to question about it. And that's the reason why I'm asking, too, because I want to see more women in film. I want to see more women in politics. I would love to see, there's no reason why a woman can't do the same thing a guy does. Maybe physically there might be some things, NFL, whatever. I don't give a shit about that, though.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't it be sad if there was no NFL?
I wouldn't give a shit. I don't watch sports anymore anyway. I used to. I just don't even care anymore. But realistically, like... I grew up, with a mom who's very independent. I know a lot of independent women like you and my wife and people that I'm like, dude, we're on the same battleground here. So, but I don't know what's keeping a lot of it back. I don't know if it really is. I mean, people say it's sexism, but I'm like,
well, I don't know. It's labels. It's labels. It's like I have to label you as a white male.
Right.
And then I make my decisions about you based on that. You have to label me as a middle-aged white woman, and then you have to make decisions about me based on that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Why do we have to call it feminism? Why do we have to label everything? It's kind of it's sort of like the religious need to categorize people and put them in little boxes and control them from inside that box. Sort of spilled out into our whole world, and we can't just be people doing things, and we work together because we're people.
Right.
It's like you're this thing and I'm this thing, and then we label this, and then it's just,
because that's how we categorize
it's kind of
groups.
Weird, yeah. It's kind of weird, and so if I'm in this box, I'm not allowed to think this other thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I think a lot of different things. I have so many conflicting beliefs from the standpoint of, I think I don't have a good example, so that really was a stupid thing to say, but. I think that people should be allowed to worship as they choose, but I can't stand religion. There's a perfect one. Yeah. I can't stand it. Yeah. I absolutely can't stand it. I think it is the most fantastical invention that man ever came up with, and that is in a totally different box from what I would call spirituality, right. Which is an individual person's relationship with what they perceive as a higher power, as nature, as intuition, however they look at that. And I think that is untouchable. Mm-hmm. And I think religion should disappear.
Right.
Because it doesn't do anything. If you look at why people fight about anything, that's at the root of it, Right. It's Kurds, it's this, it's the Gaza Strip, it's all... It's the religion.
The us and
people
them.
In this country.
Yeah.
Trump, not Trump. Religion. Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like you can't just hide behind that. You can't just say this is what we have to do because of religion. It's like, well, why? Well, if you take that away, what's your reason? Then why are you doing that?
What about the people that feel that they can't function or live without religion. And I'm being actually practical here because, I mean, you know me, I'm a very outspoken atheist. I think religion is bullshit. I also think a lot of spirituality is bullshit. But I understand the mechanisms about why people will turn to these systems in order to cope. Like, for example, you have a kid dying of cancer and you feel like I'm hopeless.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to turn to. I'm not unempathetic. There was a lady I talked to a couple weeks ago who said that she took the balloon rides,
Oh, yeah.
whatever. And she said that she was trying to get as close to, her husband had passed away. And she was trying to get as close to heaven as possible. Now, I'm not faulting somebody for feeling that way. I'm more of a person, I'd like to know the truth. So I understand the reasons why. But I think it still gets in the way of how you view the world. And if you think that group or that label makes you see somebody else completely different. Like, I'm sure a lot of Christians and people of faith or Islam, they look at the worldview and they say, okay, those group of people, those gay people over there, they don't belong in our group, or these people need to be killed, or I need to cut these people's heads off. That's where I start to have the problem. It's not that I don't understand why people believe, but a lot of times when they start to get into these belief systems, they think they're justified in all other actions of their life. They have every right to tell everyone else how to think, tell women what to do with their body. And I'm like,
that's the problem.
It's like,
Yeah.
you can't, I don't know how to balance that, to be honest with you, because I'm sympathetic, even empathetic to people that feel like, I can't get the fuck off drugs. I need God. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
But then when you try to explain to people you don't need that process as much as you think that you do, and that there's a better way of understanding it, and that you'll see the world much more clear, then they start to like point fingers at you. And I think that goes back to culture right now. Like you were just talking about with the pro-Trump, the anti-Trump. Like we're so fucking tribal. I mean, that's part of our evolutionary process, is to be tribal. And so when someone doesn't fit within that group, we're likely to attack them. That was for our survival memechanism. If there was a tribe of like 50 of us and there was another tribe, we had to defend ourselves. I mean, birds chirping outside are not doing it for fun. They're defending their territory. But
the people who believe in evolution and who tout that and want everyone to get on board with it, then why can't we evolve past that? Because that isn't the situation anymore. There's not just 50 of us. There isn't anyone attacking us. I don't need to protect my tribe anymore. I can just sit back and listen to what you have to say. And I can just evaluate it from a calm, rational standpoint.
Well, do you think the fact that we don't have tribes, do you think the fact that we're not living in tribes anymore and we're more isolated, we need these other types of groups, like the liberals, the Democrats, the feminists, the atheists, all these labels are now the new, because if you think about it, we're more lonely than we've ever been.
I think we need one thing. I think we only need one thing, ever. Personal responsibility. That's it. That's all anybody needs. Because if you take personal responsibility, then you can tell me how you feel about any topic that we choose to discuss. And you don't have to hide behind a group or a religion or a poster or an emblem or a tattoo. Or
how much
anything.
personal responsibility can you actually take? For example, let's think of the people in Syria, right? There's families being killed and bombed, and how much personal responsibility can they take for the control over their own lives? There's certain parts where, because I agree with you. I mean, you have to have personal responsibility, but I think there's some times where there's factors that are out of control and you still need to deal with them.
Yeah, that's not the same thing, though. I mean, if you're talking about why a person believes a certain thing and why they join groups, that's not the same thing as a war.
But wouldn't it be because it's a belief? Like ideology in a system like Assad, for example, has a belief. He thinks that this is how I control these people. Personal responsibility for him would actually be like understanding this is not how I deal as a leader. I think religion beliefs are really not that much different than ideological political beliefs. It's groups of people that think this is how you will run your morals in your society. This is how you're going to interact. This is how you're going to solve problems. It's just religion is a kind of existential way of having moral authority, whereas politics is the groundwork for moral authority in a society. And you're still using the same, because if you think about it, that's why religion and politics often go together. That's why you'll see certain societies with it. So having that personal responsibility, going back to that, how can you do that in certain situations where the society, for example, in like Saudi Arabia, where everyone believes that you should be cutting people off, women don't need to have rights. How does personal responsibility fit even in those beliefs?
Well, I think that's so many steps farther down the road, because in those different societies, you're talking about, generations of religious indoctrination. And so the steps of personal responsibility are so buried underneath all of that ideology that they've been fed. So you don't have people in positions of power who have ever taken personal responsibility. They, and probably mostly out of fear, fear of what their God will do or fear of what their leader will do. So the idea of personal responsibility doesn't exist at an authoritarian, at the authoritative level. Those people in charge have never taken personal responsibility. So therefore, you don't have that option in that culture.
So the people can, it's kind of like having a helicopter parent. The kid never learns to do things himself. He's always being told how to think and what to be. Right,
exactly. So if you don't have a society where that has ever been modeled or ever been, a person in power has done that, you don't have access to it.
Right.
Do
you think that's a problem with, I don't mean to always pick on the millennials, but do you think that's the same with this entitlement when it comes to millennials? Do you think that we've been helicoptering them so much? Like, we're so afraid of being like our parents that we've now protected them, always gave them the trophy award for being in 8th place. Do you think that it's the same?
Had a graduation from 5th grade?
Yeah, like, honestly, do you think...
I can't come because I have to go to my daughter's 1st grade graduation tomorrow.
Yeah, for really? What?
Because how about we just wait till she graduates from flipping high school and then we'll get back to me.
But isn't it the same thing as saying that you're always rewarding people for things that they're not doing? You're not...
We reward mediocrity in this society because we're so afraid to push people to be better. That's where we've ended up. We're so afraid to actually hold people to a higher standard and force them to have personal responsibility that we've just decided to give up and reward mediocrity.
But why? Why are we doing that?
Because
is it safe? We're afraid?
And lazy and full of high fructose.
But there's got to be a reason why, though. Did we just give up? Did we just say, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't make it as a species by just being complacent either and being mediocre.
No, but we don't have those kinds of threats anymore. People don't wake up, they're not chased by wild animals. Yeah. They don't have to hunt for their food. They don't have to build a fire. They don't have to use their brain or die.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
You can literally sit in your house until you weigh 600 or 700 pounds and order everything you need offline.
Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast about that exact thing.
You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So what would be the purpose? So if that's the level of expectation that we have, what is anyone's incentive to go beyond that? You have to find it inside.
But that can't be a good life either. What I'm saying is that I think the good thing about life now is that you have more choices. At least I think so.
But you have so many choices that people won't make any.
Yeah, that's true.
They're frozen.
Yeah.
They have so many choices that they're like,
yeah, I agree.
I'm just going to do nothing. Because I'll tell you what, give me a newspaper with no want ads. Just find me one newspaper with no want ads. No jobs available in an entire city. Get back to me.
What's your thought on that?
It's like sitting around bitching and moaning about, I had my college education and I can't get a job. It's like, you can get a goddamn job.
Right.
You can get a goddamn job. You know what my first job was after I graduated Dean's List from Pepperdine University? Taking portraits at a JCPenney portrait studio.
Right.
You can get a goddamn job.
But do you think you'll get a job that will, one, pay you enough and that will fulfill you in life? I think,
know what? If you sit back and wait for that, how many years do you wait for that?
Yeah, no, like definitely.
You have to make your own reality. You can't sit back and wait. That, to me, is the issue. People are sitting back and waiting for someone to deliver it to their door.
Right.
Because that's their whole world. They're like, I want this. I order it online. It comes to me.
Yeah.
So this is my passion. This is what I want, and it's going to just be delivered to me. It's like, no, you got to get out there and freaking work for it. You have to make something happen.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be delivered to you. Yeah. Oh, you might have to work at some jobs you don't like. Oh, how terrible.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that's what a lot of people had to do. I'm sure you can always find that one story, and that's the one people always grab onto. That miracle overnight success,
which is fucking
where they
bullshit.
Just got discovered on YouTube,
yeah.
And then now they're a multi-billionaire. Sure, great, but for that one story, how many millions or billions of stories are there that are like, yeah, well, I had a YouTube channel for 10 years and no one gave a shit, So
yeah.
You have to do more than that. You really do.
So how do you do that now in the age of where anyone can self-publish, anyone can make a film, anyone can write a book now? Mm-hmm. How do you get past the? And I think this is a problem that I know I try to figure out, and I'm sure you're trying to figure out too, is how do you break through all that noise? Because some of us are trying to work our ass off to do all these things. I picked up another part-time job again just to get out of student loan debt so I can do this. I want to do this. I know you want to do this, but is working hard enough?
Yeah, because here's what. If you really look at the numbers, and there's something like 300,000 new books released on Amazon every month. And that's just daunting when you think, oh my God, how is someone ever going to find my book with all that noise? But the problem is, and I don't have the statistics, so this is literally made up numbers, just
fake news.
100% fake news right now. Let's just say 90% of those people, let's say 80%, just to be conservative. I'm sure it's 90, but 80% of those people aren't going to do jack shit. Okay? They're like, yay, I wrote a book. I published it.
I build it, they will come.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. It's like, that isn't the end of the work. So it's like, yeah, that's your dream. You want to be an author. You want to sell books. Do you want to just have books published? Is that really your dream? Because that's easy. You can write a book and publish it. But do you want it to sell? Do you want to build a career? Do you eventually want to be profitable in that? Then there's a whole lot more going on. Then you might want to think about professional editing or professional cover design. You might want to think about how you build your brand, how you set up your marketing, how you work landing pages. Are you building a mailing list? You know, it's like, I have 10,000 followers on Twitter. Who gives a crap? Have you been able to track one of your sales back to one of those people?
Yeah.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
So what's your plan after that? You know, it doesn't end. It's like you don't just have the dream and take one step and ta-da.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was
Pick
just
up your
talking
Newbery
to
Award,
Adam. You know, when I had a podcast with Adam Smith, a musician, and
Yeah.
one thing we were talking about is how everybody's waiting for the record label to come and swoop in and save
Yeah.
you, or the Hollywood producer, or the publishing agent. Those days are gone.
Those days are gone.
Like you're gonna be
Those
waiting a
days are
really long
gone.
time, and so it's
Yeah.
a scary time, but I think it's a great time because you have more control over your life. But you're gonna have to do a lot more work than you probably would have. But that's actually good because you're more control of your career. I think.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather have more control over my career. Maybe not make as much money as like Spielberg, whatever, but make the films that matter to me and have the audience that matters to me,
Right.
and work my ass off for that. Than like do like a Transformers movie where I fucking hate it, and you know what I'm saying. So
I do.
So what's your process then? What are you going through? What are you learning now? Putting out a book and self-publishing. Like where are you at?
Yeah. So back to the steps thing. I, like pretty much every newbie, when I started out with my very first book, my very first series, I did exactly that. I wrote my book and I published it and I went, ooh, this is gonna be amazing. And nothing happened. Right. And I was like, wait, what's happening? Why don't people buy my book? And then I was like, oh, I guess I better do some research. And so it's a process. And having a mentor, having a coach, being in a mode of being willing to learn. It's not, once you do something, it doesn't mean that's the way you're going to do it every time. And that was the biggest lesson that came out of the first book. No, writing them out longhand, not your best option. That's actually stupid. Right. It's like, unless you have a personal assistant that you've hired that's going to type it up for you when you're all done, well, then fantastic. Then you can afford to be eccentric and write it out longhand if you want to do that. But that's not what everyone has, And I think a lot of people hear the success stories of a Tim Ferriss or somebody, and they think, oh, well, I'm just going to outsource everything to the Philippines, and I'm going to work 4 hours a week. And it's like, yeah, that's not how he got started.
Right,
Hello, people. He did a crap ton to get where he's at.
Right.
Okay? And yeah, he figured out some life hacks, but the way he made money was selling those. Do you know what I mean?
That is a fucking big problem that I have is when I see self-help people talking about success in business, but the only reason why they do is because that's what they've sold is the success to, like they wrote a book. Like they didn't actually start a business. They weren't like, for example, they're teaching you how to write, but they never wrote a book themselves unless it was about how to write a book. I fucking hate people like that. And there's a lot of people, if you run into the world of entrepreneurship, you're like, wait a minute, what made you successful? Well, it's because I told everyone else how to do shit and sold people on their dreams.
Right.
I fucking can't stand that,
Yeah.
So then so when you sit down and you're like, okay, so coming from where you were at before to where you're at now, when you're writing a book now, what is your process? How do you decide to formulate? Like, what is your process? Do you take notes? Do you do outlines?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not on board with the concept of writing to market. And I know some people are, and maybe one day I'll change my mind, and we'll be sitting here in the 5-year anniversary, and I'll be like, so my new plan is I write to market. But writing to market means I go and I see what's selling, and I'm like, oh, vampire novels are really popular. I'm gonna write a vampire novel. I don't give a crap about vampire novels, and I'm not gonna write one. So that's not. I write because I have stories spilling out of my brain already, and those are the stories I want to write. Those are the characters I want to really dive into and develop and imagine and share, So that's what I'm writing. Like I said, that could change 5 years from now, but right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm writing the stories I want to write. And my process is it's a lot like the screenwriting process, honestly. I start with my 3x5 cards. I come up with an idea for a scene or a character or a character's, backstory, whatever it is, and I write them down and I stick them up on a board. And at this point, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's a story. I mean, the first time I didn't really know what I was doing, and I kind of started to fill in holes, and the first book took a lot longer than now. First book took like 2 years, and I did 4 books in 1 year now. So it's just like you
figured out your system.
It's a learning
better.
curve, and you have the system. And you find better tools, Now I take those cards that I've scribbled up and I put everything in a program called Scrivener. And so now I have an electronically searchable database when I'm looking for what was that character's name, or who was their mother, or what was the thing that I said that they did in book 2, especially with a series. Nobody talks about how to write a series. That's a really interesting thing. People always talk about how to write a book, but it's like how to write a series is really different, because each book has to have an ending that's the beginning.
Yeah.
So
kind of like a TV series.
It's a lot like that. So you have to have, the A story, the B story, the C story, so some things are going to get wrapped up in the book, and there's going to be enough satisfaction for the reader to go, oh, awesome. But what happens to them? Next book. So you have to have that huge story arc that is the whole series, and then you have these mini arcs in each book. Well, you have to keep track of all the crap that you come up with in that book.
Do you already know what that arc is when you're doing it? Like when you sit down, do you say, okay, I'm probably going to write 3 books? Like, do you already kind of have an idea, or do you kind of have an idea, but you start with one and then it leads into the next?
Another thing that I've learned, the first series, I wasn't even sure I was going to write a series. I wrote a book, and then I was like, oh, there's more to the story. I think there's 2 more books in this story, kind of a whatever. And so that one sort of unfolded as I worked on it, and I was like, oh yeah, definitely there's 2 more books and blah, blah, blah. But this one, I was like, this is 8 books. This is how it's going to be, and so I had more of an idea from the beginning. So I know how the series ends. I don't know the exact ending of each book, but because I know where I need to get to in the story, I can kind of figure out how to hop down the road, kind of a thing. So that there's something that gets wrapped up that's big enough and satisfying enough for the reader that they don't feel like, well, this shouldn't be a book. This is the first part of another book. So there's something that feels like an ending, but then there's also the rest of the story that continues. But I mean, honestly, that's, to me, that makes reading interesting, because it's like if you have some big, massive, we'll go back to the Wonder Woman thing, massive adversary that you're going to defeat, and then you just defeat them in 90 minutes, or maybe it was longer than that. God, it seemed like 2.5 hours. It's like, really? Okay, that was literally your whole mission, according to your backstory. You're done.
But do you think that people are making series just to milk out money? Like, it feels like everyone's making series now just because they feel like, okay, I need a sequel so I can make more. Because Hollywood's not taking a chance on shit anymore. So they're
they just do
I'm going to
sequels.
remake this and I'm going to make a sequel. So it's almost as if you don't have a trilogy, they're not even going to look at it because they're like, they just want the audience to already be there. I think that's what worked for Harry Potter, is like they knew that there would be this consistent audience. Do you think it's the same thing with books right now? Or?
Well, I hope so. Here's why. Because I think that authors deserve that break. Because if people are barely willing to pay 99 goddamn cents for a book, I sure as fuck hope they're going to buy the second one. Because that's ridiculous. Yeah. The amount of time and money that actually goes into the book, writing it, producing it, editing it, laying it out, formatting it for ebook, cover design, all of those costs. And then people are like, I don't know if I want to pay 99 cents for an author. I don't know. Really?
Yeah.
99 cents? You're not sure about that?
Do you think
I
it's
want
because...
it for free, but you should give me the first book free.
But do you think it's because it's 99 cents they're looking at it as they think that's what the value is of it? And I'm really trying to... Because I'm trying to figure out how to price my films. And
I think Amazon is not helping us out.
Yeah?
I think Amazon is all about providing as much content as possible to their search engine users. And they don't care if you're making money because they're making money. They just want more content.
Well, what about, but do you think the audience
that makes
perception
them
of it?
the best.
But do you think the audience perception of the book, and I'm asking this because it's the same thing when it comes to films. Like I have a film I'm releasing, but I'm not going to reduce the price. Now it may hurt me. This is a learning process for me too. I'm going to keep it at an average range, maybe even just a little bit more, because I do think it's valuable enough to do it. Like I figure like if you're not willing to pay for it, you're probably not my audience anyway. Like I'd rather have a small audience who's willing to pay for it, but because it's just like, you know, we talk about this in production, you know, when you start to devalue yourself and putting yourself at a price range, people start thinking you are at that range. Now, there is a market you got to answer to too, of course. So it's hard to figure out how do you keep your value so your perception is this is worth this and versus like, I need to make money and pay my fucking bills. Like, I mean, how do you...
Well, for me, you know, at this point, with the amount of readers that I have and the amount of books that I have out there and the way my current sales are, I have to focus on being competitive.
Yeah.
And everybody else is doing it. So you can't, you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. Once you get to another level where you have 10 or 20 or 30,000 people on your mailing list and you can just send out hey, I released a new book, everybody, and 1,000 people buy it.
When you have the audience there.
And, 1,000 people buy your book that day, then great. Jack up the price of the rest of your books.
So for you right now, it's audience building. I mean, that's where I'm at too.
It absolutely is about audience building, and that's fine. I don't have an issue with that because in reality, when I do my reader survey and I get feedback from people who have actually read my books, they think the books should be priced higher.
Yeah.
You know, $2.99, $3.99, $4.99. Some people think $5.99. You know, I'm like, great. So it's about getting those people and getting more of those people and more of those people. So once you build up a mailing list of 20,000 people, you can safely assume that you've probably got at least 1,000 people in there who would pay that for your books.
You have your core audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. That's the key that all these authors who are making money and who have hundreds and hundreds of reviews on their books, that's all they have. They have a core group of 1,000 super fans who they can email, who will buy their book for 99 cents during their soft launch week so that it shows up as a verified purchase, and then they post a 5-star review, and then bada boom, bada bing, they've got 300 reviews, their book looks fantastic, and who's not going to buy it now? Well, nobody. Yeah, I mean, everybody, everybody's going to buy it now. So that's really the key. I mean, if you look at somebody, like I just started watching a bunch of videos from this Daniel D. Piazza guy. And he is the founder of Rich 20-something. And he's got a great backstory. I mean, he's got the kind of backstory that people just lap up, where he was a dishwasher in a steakhouse in Miami. Dude? Yeah.
Yeah, I love him. Yeah, I watch him.
He's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's totally, totally awesome. And he totally gets the millennials, and he gets what they're about, and he's reaching out to them. But the people who respond to him are the people who are willing to do the work. Yeah. That's the key.
Yeah.
He's not about sit back, get high, money falls in your lap.
Yeah.
That's not his message. He's like, I get up at 4 a.m, I go to the gym, I da-da-da-da-da. He practices what he preaches, He's getting it done. But when he launched his book, week 1, 200 reviews. Because he's got his army of followers who love him.
Exactly.
And that's what you have to have now. That's what it's about. It's about an author building a following. And you have to do that on your own. And quite honestly, there's an awful lot of traditionally published authors who are coming over to the indie side because even if you're traditionally published, the publishing house doesn't give a rat's ass about your following.
Exactly.
And they can change the terms of your contract and they can do all kinds of crap. Your book goes out of print, they don't renew, whatever. And so people who were traditionally published are coming over to the indie side going, wow, I could get a 70% royalty instead of 15%.
Exactly.
It's like, well, yeah, 70% of 99 cents is nothing. But once you can get your books up in price, then you can actually make a living. So it's a building process. And if you give up, if you're just like, oh, well, I published these books and nothing's happening, like, well, yeah, it's not. you have to get out there. You have to market these books now. You have to build this audience. You have to give people something to get something. You know, they're not just going to be like, oh, can I please be on your mailing list? Like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, why the fuck? Like, exactly. Our email list is already full of shit.
Lead magnet.
Like, how many times people want me to sign up for their fucking emailing list, and I don't even check the fucking emails anymore. The people really got to want to do it. And I think you just have to keep building content and putting shit out there more. And someone's going to, like, gravitate it at some point. Someone's going to find, like, or the people that matter are going to. And
and there's plenty of people. That's the thing. It's like that mentality that, like, oh my God, there's only this many readers. And if this many, you know, a fourth of that pie is reading those people's books, then there's only 3/4 of the pie left. No, people read all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who will read everything that's written. I mean, there's the book on Amazon right now, top 100 Yo Mama jokes. And it's selling. It's got tons of reviews. It's you know. So it's like there are people out there who will buy pretty much anything. It's just finding them, connecting with them, giving them enough value in exchange for their loyalty to build those readers. And then once you've done that, then, you know.
Are you starting to figure out your audience a little bit more? I mean, I think the hardest part for me is as a new. I guess I consider myself a newer filmmaker. This is my first full-length feature, but obviously I have shorts. You know, I put A Virus Called Fear out there to kind of draw people in.
Yeah.
I'm still confused about who my audience is, and I'm being genuine and authentic in saying that. I start to see like email messages here, and I see people commenting, but I don't really know what that demographic is and how I can best serve them. Do you feel like you're starting to get more of a handle, or do you feel like you still have a ways to go to really pin down where you think your demographics are?
I mean, I'm on my 3rd year of reader surveys, and I highly recommend it. I mean, it's really enlightening because I would have thought with the style of book that I write and the topics that I hit on, and especially when I went into the fantasy series, which to me is more of a young adult type of series based on the characters and what they're dealing with, I really expected different results, but the majority of my readers, like over 50% of my readers, are over 40.
Okay.
That surprised me. I was like, wow, okay, didn't see that coming. You know, so to me, that reader survey stuff is really important. And yeah, it's a smaller list. It's not as big of a random sampling, you know, whatever. So you can only extrapolate so much. But each month my mailing list is growing, and so each year when I do that reader survey, I'm getting more data, and it's, you know, a larger audience, and pretty soon it's going to be very, very accurate of what's actually happening. So when I look at those results and I see that over 60% of the respondents would rather see me write a standalone novel than another series, well, that matters to me. Then I go, okay, I'm on board with that because, you know, I like that idea. So it really is helpful, I think. As far as what I'm trying to do right now and the way I'm trying to build my audience and how I'm trying to provide useful things to them and, you know, in exchange for information like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important, even in just business itself, is knowing who is your audience and who's willing to, you know, pull their wallet out. Not just pull their wallet out, but really talk about the book or how interested on it. Like, who are your core fans? And then, because I was just talking about this with Adam about how they're going to be the people that are going to kind of be your disciples. They're the ones that are going to go out there and talk about it, because you and me could talk about our product. I could talk about my film. You could talk about your book till you're blue in the face, and people are like, well, of course you're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But when somebody else does,
it's your baby. Everyone thinks their baby's cute.
Exactly. But when someone else does, it has more credibility. People are like, oh, okay, you know. So for me, like even with the podcast, it's been 2 years, and there's times I'm like, wow, I'm not getting that many views. I get a lot of downloads, but I feel like there's so many people doing so much better. But I'm like, look how long they've been doing it. Look how many more, like I'm nowhere near that. So, and there's a lot of people, they'll do like 10 episodes and they'll quit, or they'll do like 20. This is the 65th episode I have, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And I didn't even think I'd be doing it this long. And there's times I feel like, Ben, it's still not as big as you like it to be. But I realize, just like you said, you just got to keep doing it and doing it. And and I'm starting to get a little bit more feedback. I'm starting to get feedback. And I see the audience with A Virus Called Fear. I see the audience with this. And I start to see what's working with it. I really think that when I release this film, it's going to really like get me to that next level. Not the next like big level, obviously. I'm saying where it's like it's the next stepping stone for my next 2 films, you know. And I think that's how it is with your books. Is I think you're starting to realize like, okay, I'm starting to understand the process. I'm starting to understand who my audience is. I'm learning from what it was that I was doing, and that's the only way you can do it. And some people don't want to do that. Like you said, they want to sit on their ass They want to just talk a big game. They want to be like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to make a film. Like, how many fucking people do I know? Like, I'm going to make a film. Hey, Ben, let's go make a film. I'm like, you don't really want to make a film.
You don't really want to make a film.
You don't really want to do that.
You don't really know how.
And even with me, like how many failures I came across with my goddamn film with like, I couldn't raise money for the Kickstarter. I couldn't find an editor. I couldn't do, and I was like, you know what? I'll fucking finish it myself. Like, I try to prove that, look, I know you should be delegating to other people. Like that's a thing that any successful person knows.
Right.
I'm not in a position to do it yet, but I'm willing to show that I'll do all the fucking work myself if I have to.
Right.
Now, I don't like it. It fucking sucks, but I'm willing to show like when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to fucking do it. And I just want to do it. But hopefully that work ethic bleeds into when I start delegating editorial things and producing that I'm serious about it. I'm not just one of those people in fucking Hollywood that's like, oh, I want to be a fucking Hollywood whatever.
The difference is if you look at that and you're like, oh, I don't want to edit my film, and then you stop, that's what 80% of your competition is doing.
Exactly.
And they're going to sit back and they're going to wait till money falls from the sky, and then they're going to move forward.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, no, I don't want to do it, but this is what has to happen, and I want this to be finished, and I want to release this, and I'm going to move forward. You know, it's like I designed the first cover for my first book. It sucked. No one would tell me that, but it didn't take me very long to figure it out. No, you saw the redesigned one.
Oh, okay.
I don't think very few people have the original. Yeah. And it had meaning to me, and that was the biggest lights on moment, I think, of becoming an author was like, yeah, but you're not your audience. You need a cover that pulls them in.
Yeah.
And just because that cover meant something to you and ties into the story in this deep way, no one gives a shit. You know, it's like they want to see a cover that they go, ooh, interesting, click. That's what you want. It's like the whole concept of don't judge a book by its cover. That's pure bullshit. Yeah. That's all that gets judged.
But do you think people get caught up in that too much? Like I know a lot of times, I'm sure this happens in the writing world, but definitely in filmmaking, people get so caught up in what they think they need that they don't even do shit. Like they're like, oh, I need to have an Ari Alexa. I need to have, this amount of money.
That's bullshit. You don't have to do that.
And you don't. You should just be doing it and just keep. I mean, it's never going to be perfect.
But it's the same way. It's the same way with writing. It's totally the same way with writing. People are like, oh, well, I want to finish my book, but I can't afford an editor. Well, then you find an editor who charges less money.
Or you just do it your fucking self.
It's like, yeah, I mean, if you have to, it's not the greatest plan because you're never really that good at editing your own words.
Yeah, no, I know.
But you can find an editor to do something for, I'm again making up numbers, for $200 or $500 or $1,500 or $5,000. Well, yeah, if it's your first book and you haven't made any sales, you're not going to hire the $5,000 editor.
Yeah.
You're going to work with this $200 editor, and you're going to have something better than if you hadn't edited it at all. And then maybe later you go back, this is what I did, you hire another editor, you re-edit the book, and you release that new edition when you can afford to. It's like you can't just stop because you can't do that one thing. You can always improve, you can always change, you can always massage, you can always do it better on the next thing.
Because you'll be waiting around forever to do it.
But if you just put up the roadblocks, then you just stop.
And that's what you
have to keep going.
When I did the Kickstarter campaign for my editor, I was trying to raise $30,000. And I know a lot of people said, hey, that's a high number. But I was like, dude, I don't know unless I try. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm like, dude, I might as well just try. But I don't know if I'll ever do Kickstarter again. I don't know. But I could have sat there and said, okay, well, I couldn't make the film. I couldn't find anybody else. But I think that's why you got to be passionate about what the fuck it is you're doing and really want to, because you will. Because at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Maybe this film won't be as good as if I had a $30,000 editor, but what's going to be worse is if I don't fucking finish it. Like if I do, and I can't wake up knowing it wasn't done. Like, cause that just sits in your head. You're like, fuck it. You don't ever know what's going to happen. Now I could put it out there and people are like, Ben, I don't give a fuck about your film. All I care is I finished it. Like, and if you can keep completing what you said you're going to do, it builds more confidence. So when you find people, you're more like, okay, you know what? I know this is going to be hard. I know whatever. And you feel better about it. But stopping at that moment, I could have stopped at the $30,000 campaign and said, oh, it's over.
Absolutely.
I'm not doing it again. But you got to fucking want it. Like you got to be like, this is what which is why to me, I wouldn't do what do you say, play to the market or
Writing to the market.
yeah, I would never do that, and I'll tell you why. It's because I think once it's to the market, it's too late. You're just a copycat. You're getting caught up in the noise. It's like everybody wants to follow the fad, and then the worst thing is to be is a copycat of somebody else.
Right.
I would rather say, okay, this is exactly what the market's doing,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do something completely different and stand out. Robert Rodriguez, when he makes films, that's what he says. He's like, if you see everybody going that way, go this way. So I don't even care if it does sell. I mean, I could make a superhero film right now if I wanted to. I don't fucking want to. I don't want to make anything that Hollywood is doing. I may not have as big as an audience, but at least I'll hopefully stand out on my own and be like,
Right.
I'm a unique individual. Hopefully people eventually will copy me. I don't want to, I can't be anything else. I think if you start to do that, you lose something in yourself. I don't know if you feel that way or not. Like,
I do.
If you start to write something that isn't you, you're like, what the fuck am I? Why do this? I'll work at fucking McDonald's. Like, if I want to do something I don't want to do, I'll go fucking work at McDonald's, you know? So I'd rather just do what fucking means something to me, even if nobody likes it. Because I'd rather be true to myself and have that audience than some fake ass, I don't know, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian bullshit image of something that I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, so...
Yeah.
I know that's just my thoughts on that. So
No, I agree. I mean, I think, part of what will actually give you the passion to continue is when you know you're following something that really matters to you.
right.
It's like if I was writing books I didn't care about, oh, trust me, I would have quit a long time ago because it has not been easy.
Yeah.
Not at all. There have been days where I've just been like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? I could easily just go and work at some stupid desk job or whatever, and not deal with this and not have to look at people's 1-star reviews or whatever, or get emails from people who are upset because I used swear words in my book. It's like, really? Because then don't fucking read it. I mean, I don't, it's just like, it's a free country. It's a free world in a lot of the world, I guess not everywhere, but it's a free country. Amazon gives you 1,000 different ways to preview a book. You can read 10 or 20% of a book for free, for Christ's sake, before you even download it. So if you haven't figured out by that point that you didn't like it, don't buy it and then come crying to me because you didn't like some no-no words.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I don't get that. And returning books, like, that blows my mind. That blows my mind. I would never return a book. I mean, I didn't even like it. I'd just be like, well, whatever. I'll give it to the library. I'll donate it to the Goodwill. Whatever. It's like, return it? It's like you read it.
Yeah.
You read the book.
It's like returning underwear you've worn.
Like,
why are you doing that?
Oh, well, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. But, the thing is, you have to be doing something that you are passionate about. Like, you can't be doing it for somebody else because then you are going to give up. Then those obstacles come at you and you're going to be like, yep, that is a big enough obstacle. I'm out. But if it's something that you really want, that you want to see it through, then you'll keep finding a way to move forward.
Right.
And that's it. It's just like, it's like, hey, it's just one day at a time.
Yeah, it is.
It's like I just get up and I just write more today. And I'll get up tomorrow and I'll write some more tomorrow. And it's like, maybe every day doesn't feel like, oh, I just wrote a masterpiece.
Right.
But, some days are like, damn, that was awesome.
Exactly.
I feel really good about that,
The good thing is, though, too, is
more
that
of those in a row.
Well, the good thing is that you can always think too that you still haven't written your masterpiece yet either. Like to me, I feel like, okay, I did the best I can with my films, but I still haven't made my best film yet. So it's good that like I'm going through this like growing pains of failure and like, oh man, I shot that wrong, whatever. But that also means that my future is actually really bright. So I told this to Adam too, and it's probably the same thing with you. I don't think you've written your best stuff yet, which is good. Like that's something to look forward to. Saying like,
I'm learning. I'm always learning. I never want to stop learning. Like I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm like, well, I know everything, so just ask me any question. I've got all the answers.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. It's sad. But I'm literally taking 3 different online courses right now that deal with different aspects of being an author and building mailing lists and marketing and whatever, and I'm signed up to different things and I watch free webinars and I do research and like I was saying, Daniel DiPiazza, I definitely find that I can't always find all the motivation inside.
Yeah.
It's like some days I just like, okay, I gotta listen to somebody who's done this and
Yeah.
is making some goddamn money. Because if it's like, if I have to look at my sales one more day and go, really?
Yeah.
Are we still? That's
It's
still
having a
happening?
virtual mentor is really what it is.
It really is.
That's what
It
I
really
do.
is.
I watch a lot of like podcasts and videos of people that
Yeah.
like, even in other industries, like I'm like, okay, well, how did you market your business when you didn't have any money? How did you
Right.
make films? And so it's kind of like having that virtual mentor to saying
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't know this now, because everyone does need a mentor.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays what's good is you can pull up almost anyone from a podcast, a video, YouTube, an online course, like you said,
Yeah.
and really just like there's really no excuse anymore.
Right.
Like I don't know why I can't make any more sales than what I'm doing, but at least I kind of figure out where I'm supposed to be moving the ship.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I have enough of the tools that I'm like, I'm a little bit more confident than I was like going to film school, example, and it's just constantly mentoring yourself. And, I thought film school was going to be enough for me. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I didn't have unrealistic expectations. Like I didn't think
Right.
I'd come out of there as Spielberg. That's why I started a production company. But I didn't realize how much more I still really needed to keep up with and to learn. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the process. And I knew that getting into it. So
It's crazy though. I mean, and the thing is, it works because each one of those, different mentors that I find, and I go through their program and I make my little notes and I and I do something, and it moves the needle and it moves the needle
Right.
and it moves the needle, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
It's like I gotta see something happening. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm just beating my head against a wall.
Right.
So it's like I've got to find these little shortcuts, these little tricks, these little new ideas, these little things that I didn't really think of or whatever, and getting feedback from people.
Right.
And being able to take feedback. I mean, some people ask for feedback and then you give them feedback and then they just lose their shit and you're like, well, okay, then just take your piece of crap and go do whatever you want with it. Because if you don't want the feedback, then I don't know what you're asking.
how are you supposed
me.
to learn from it? That's what I felt like at film school when we used to watch the weeklies and people were always trying to justify
They're
every fucking
defending
thing.
everything.
I'm like, dude, and there was times I tried to defend it, but I always tried to listen. Like, it's funny because,
Yeah.
Jeremy was always, saying one thing, but I always told him in the end that I was like, I argue with you just to push where the boundary
Yeah.
is. It wasn't that I
Yeah.
thought I was right. I just wanted to see where, like, are you saying that because that's what it is? And if it's not, I want to challenge it. But I did take that feedback.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I've used that with a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. But a lot of people, they don't want to hear that. And you go to your Amazon reviews. Like, to me, I go to Amazon reviews and I get good ones, but then I get ones that are shit.
Yeah.
But I don't care. Like, you got to learn to take fucking rejection and be like,
Yeah.
these people's opinions are
Yeah.
not as important as you think that they are. And if you let people's opinions, good or bad, like believing your own press, good or bad, is
Good
going
or
to fuck
bad.
you up.
Good or bad, you can't. You just have to be like, well, that's good. I've got another review.
Yeah.
Because it's a numbers game on Amazon. You want more reviews.
Yeah.
And some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. And honestly, as unfun as it is to see bad reviews, it is good overall because people have different opinions, and then maybe that's going to stop somebody with that same opinion from buying the book and
Right.
leaving a shitty review.
Right.
Good riddance. It's
Yeah.
like, that's great. Or maybe someone's going to read that and go, BS. I think that's awesome. The exact thing
Right.
that you hate, I think that's awesome. Bye.
Yeah.
So you can't be inside everyone's head. So it's just like whatever.
And you can't take it personally. I've
it's-
argued with enough people
Yeah.
on Facebook to be like, I don't really give a shit about people's opinions anymore. I think it makes you tougher. I really do. I think you have to
Yeah.
have a thick skin where
You do.
it's kind of like, I don't know if have you heard of Brene Brown? Do you know who she is?
No.
She's a really great speaker and she talks about this thing called vulnerability where, and I don't think she's the first person to mention this, but it's kind of like being in an arena, okay?
Okay.
And there's certain people that are in the arena, like down, fighting the gladiator fight, and then there's people in the stands, right? You're always gonna have bullshit artists out in the stands trying to talk shit. You
Sure.
can't listen to them. All you
Yeah.
can do is listen to the people that are in the arena because you don't have the energy to fight, the gladiator fight in the arena and listen to them. So
No.
I figure if you're in the stands and you're not even working on anything and you're just bitching and putting 1-star reviews, I literally could give a fuck about your opinion. Like literally, you
Right.
could fucking kill over and die. I don't fucking care, right?
Right.
But I will listen to the people that are in the arena because if there's something I need to hear that's valid criticism, I need to be aware of it and say, okay,
Sure.
maybe I do need to adjust this. Maybe I need to,
Absolutely.
but it's only going to be the people in the arena that I give a fuck about, not the
Yeah.
people that talk shit and the film critics. Fuck film critics. I fucking can't stand them. I'm like, until you make a film, I could care fucking less what you think, And I'm
the
not.
more they hate something, the more I want to see it because I know I'm going to disagree with them.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I'm going to disagree with them.
It's like, how do you, I mean, it's not that you have to make a film or even write a book to have an opinion, but I kind of value it less if you haven't been through the process. Like if you're a filmmaker or you've written something, I tend to give it a little bit more weight. Or if it's somebody that really, I don't know. I mean,
it depends on what your purpose is. You're coming from a documentary world where you're really trying to share information and there's an educational component. That's a little bit different than coming from my world right now where it's more about entertainment.
Yeah.
And so people's opinion matter whether they're writers or not. It's like that's why I have beta readers. That's why I don't just go right from what I write and publish it. I want someone else to read it and go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like, why is she doing that again?
Oh, for sure.
And you're like, oh, well, that's all in my head. Too bad I didn't put that in the book. Maybe I'll rewrite that. You know, so it's like that kind of feedback is really helpful. I mean, just snarky shit feedback, that doesn't help anybody ever about anything.
And everybody gets it, so who cares? You're not any different because
YouTube videos,
you
whatever,
gave a fucking comment. But you're right.
Yeah.
But even in documentary, I guess I have to make sure, is it clear? Are people understanding the process of what I'm trying to say? So if there's feedback on that, if somebody watches it and says, well, Ben, I'm not really understanding it. There's important feedback, and some people need to tell the difference between that and somebody just trolling you or just being like, somebody left a fucking comment. Whoever the fuck you are on Amazon, fuck you. Like, who's like, this is just not my type, or this isn't my piece of cake, or whatever the fuck. Like, who did that help? Like, who gives a shit? There's a lot of movies, But if somebody's like, Ben, I don't really understand this section of it. I get that. Then I'm like, I need to take that in consideration. And if you can do both and take valid criticism, I think you'll be a better artist for it. So
yeah, absolutely, because in the end, you're trying to produce a product that people want to watch, read, listen to, see, whatever, and making sure that they're receiving the message that you envisioned is kind of part of it. So yeah, constructive criticism and helpful feedback, it's always welcome.
Right.
From my perspective, it's just people who just say asinine shit. You're like, that's not helpful.
Yeah. So real quick, so why writing and not film? I mean, I know you for filming, so it's like I was surprised, right? And I'm glad that you're doing it. I think you're, But
Yeah.
Why go to writing and not film, or do you still want to do both?
I don't know. I'm definitely feel a stronger connection to writing, and I always did. I think what originally drew me to film was more of a kind of fantastical vision of what it was like. Mm-hmm. And I've had some interesting experiences that, are good-ish. But it's also a lot of things that aren't the best things that I've been a part of,
Right.
And so I feel like I genuinely like to work on certain projects. I genuinely like to work with certain people in the film world. Mm-hmm. And there are certain people who could call me, you're one of them, who, wants help on this, or do I want to work on that? And I would always say yes, just because, I respect who you are as a person, and I know what your work ethic is, and
right.
I don't have any issue with that. But there are plenty of people I've worked with who could call me and I would be busy. I would be so busy.
Yeah.
But film is definitely not off the table for me because it is something I really enjoy. It's a medium that I like working in, I like watching, I like being a part of it. But with writing, I'm really an introverted person, I'm super introverted.
Yeah.
And I do not like people in general. Like, just in general, straight across the board, I just don't like people.
I was going to ask that. Is it more of control?
Places, crowds.
Is it because you have more control over your...
It's not so much control as it is just I'm alone.
Yeah.
I'm just alone.
Yeah.
And I just write for 4 hours, and then, because I don't make the book by myself.
Yeah.
It's like I have an editor, I have a cover designer, on this series, I have an illustrator, my super awesome sister-in-law, and I have an ebook formatter, and then, you have to deal with all these different publishing outlets. It's like, yeah, you don't have a publishing contract, but you still have to deal with these different outlets like Amazon and Smashwords and Barnes & Noble and iBooks, and there's still all that management, marketing, admin side of it, So you're not really alone in the business, but I'm alone in my creativity.
In the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I value my beta reader feedback, and I really enjoy, getting those comments and making it more accessible and all of that kind of stuff about the process. But at the end of the day, in that creative bubble, it's just me.
Yeah.
And I don't have to answer to anyone.
And you don't have to rely on a complete
I do
film
have
crew.
authority issues.
Yeah.
So that
No,
could be
I'm
part
the
of it.
same way because
But
I respect that
it's
because in film you can't
really-
do that. Film I have to work with all these people. I don't have to, but you almost have to. And I don't like that. I'd rather be more introverted working on my, like, I'd rather just be me and my camera and then that's it. But it's only going to be so good. I think art and writing, you can get away with that.
Yes.
Business-wise, maybe not, but the creative process, you can.
Yes, the creative process you can, for sure. But with film, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to
wish you could.
have that broad.
I'll figure it out somehow. I've been doing it anyways. It's just me and my wife shooting half the time. So
Which is awesome.
I mean, Jeremy helped me a little bit in the intro sequence, but I mean, and I don't mind that. But I do agree, and that's why I was asking: is it control? Is it something where it's like I am more in my own world, and I can do more, and I don't have to depend on people. I don't have to worry about.
Maybe it's the word control that makes me go oof, but it's not. It's freedom.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's freedom because it's my schedule, my creation. And when I'm ready for feedback, I ask for feedback and I take it and I try to be gracious about it, But I don't have somebody coming in, breathing down my neck, yelling at me, telling me I'm over budget, fucking firing people, and just there's not a shitstorm. There's no shitstorm. And I feel like even on the best sets I've been on, there's pretty much always a shitstorm.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a controlled shitstorm, and sometimes it's not. And it's just.
It's the art of problem solving. That's what it seems like. It takes a lot of energy for that. And
it takes so much energy, and the problem really is, depending on who you're working with, there can be so little reward.
Yeah,
and it's it's so much sacrifice and so much time, and so and you're just like, and this is it.
Yeah.
A, this is what we ended up with, and B, that's the attitude. This is how we're wrapping this thing up
for one or 2 hours of someone's life to sit and watch. I
mean, I've worked for free and felt better about a project than I have on paid projects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of the attitude, because of the environment, because of the way people interacted or were treated or whatever. But it's like, I just, at the end of the day, I don't like people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Don't get me wrong. And that's why I have a very, very small crew, like just me and my wife and maybe a couple other people. I don't want to always do that, but I don't see myself getting any big. I think that's one thing I like about documentary is you don't need as big. I might do a narrative just to try it. I mean, I'm not against it. I'd love to do it, but I'm not a screenwriter, so I'd have to hire someone. But documentary, you can get really lean, and you need to, because you're not going to make a lot of money on it. So I like to keep it as lean as possible, but where I'm not burning myself out, because that's the one thing I do when I make a film. I'm so burnt out, literally, and it's just like I don't want to feel that way because I'm really passionate about what I'm doing, and I really want to be successful at it. I also know that I need a limited amount of budget so I can make a return on my investment. Like, I don't do it just for the money, but I got to be smart about where I'm spending money.
You got to be able to make your next film. Yeah.
Right? No, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I can't do that with like 20 people on a set.
That's what it's all about.
You know,
you got to keep going.
So hopefully I can run it lean. I'm trying to run it as lean as I can for now and have as much creative control. I talked to a guy the other day who's from Hollywood. He actually worked on one of Errol Morris's films. He was actually a gripper, and I love Errol Morris. But he was talking about just the politics of just like I see it. I see it in LA. Like everybody else, ran to LA or Austin, whatever. I'm like, no, you can have that. Like I don't even consider myself a filmmaker. I know that sounds fucking funny, but I don't. I'm not like a huge movie buff. I watch a lot of documentaries, but I'm just about like creating just ideas and just making films. But I've got to do it my way. Maybe it is control for me because I don't want to fucking make a Transformers.
It is. Spoiler alert.
It is. Fine, it is. I don't give a shit. But I feel like when I have more control, I'm more likely to do something unique. You know what I mean? Where if somebody tells me how to do something, like, Ben, you need to, like, that's the problem I had when I was doing video productions, like for people, out here in Sedona and stuff. Like, I liked it.
Well, your hands are tied.
Yeah, and I fucking hate that.
Even if you know a better way to do something or a better way to tell their story, at the end of the day, they're paying you, and you have to do it the way they want you to do it. And that is the most frustrating piece. And
I did that for years, and I'm backing away from that, actually. I'm trying. It's hard because now I'm picking up other jobs, but it was a great learning process. It allowed me to have all this gear and do stuff, but I'm literally done with, like, clients. I mean, it's not that I'll never work with a client again, but they've got to, like, if they're going to hire me at this point, like, I've been really putting my foot down, it's got to be because they see a creative vision that I have, and that they're coming to help me bring like their vision, but it's my vision bringing it to them. I noticed some of my favorite photographers out there, they hire them to get their vision, not the client's vision. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so,
exactly.
But I need to build what that vision is. And so I felt like I watered myself down a lot making these other productions that I was like, I never really, you know, I'm always talking about being outside the box, but I feel like I'm fucking all I am is in the box now, where it's just like, I got to make it like this. I got to do this. I'm like, fuck this. I'd rather
That's too frustrating.
I'd rather just be poor because I don't fucking, this is not why I got into this shit, you know? But you still gotta understand the business side. Like it doesn't go away. Like you still have to figure out who your audience is, how you're going to market it. And
absolutely.
I would rather put in 20 hours a day marketing my shit, doing Facebook marketing, doing podcasts, whatever the fuck I got to do for something I believe in that I'm willing to fucking spend hours doing, like with my film, than some client that's going to tell me something that I know that's not going to fucking work and pay me like whatever that I don't give a fuck about. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to be happy. So going back to the writing for the market, I think it's the same thing. When you start doing like, for example, if you're going to make movies and you're going to make a superhero movie, you're selling yourself fucking short and getting lost in the fucking crowd. You're better off now. And these days, I think the only way you can stand out legitimately is being truly your own shit, your own thing, and then having that genuine audience who actually sees that. It may take longer. You might have to do more work, but I think the investment in the long run is worth so much more than this other fake ass shit that's out there and bad shit.
Well, here's the difference. People can sense that authenticity. Even if they can't put their finger on it, they sense that authenticity. I can tell you right now, one of the things that I've done in the last couple of weeks is work on rewriting my emails, rewriting my email structure. And the previous structure I used was very canned. It was from some webinar that I watched that was not very good and really focused on the wrong things. And I used those, you know, in my email sequences, and really wasn't getting very good, you know, engagement with the audience who signed up to get a book. You know what I mean? It's like, so they made the choice, and there's just nothing. And so I put these new emails in, and I had a new list, you know, that I imported, and within an hour, I had already gotten an email back from somebody because the new email structure was more engaging. Yeah. And it was me being more me in the email versus that other person's template in the email, you know? And that's not a comfortable place for me because as an introvert, I was much more comfortable with a cut and paste template-y kind of keep out, you don't get to see in here, no, don't look behind the curtain, right. You know? But in reality, when you let people behind the curtain a little bit, not, you know, you don't, it's not TMI, but, you know, just enough of that personal flavor that they feel more engaged with you as a person.
They identify
versus
with you.
Robot email.
Right.
You know, so there's something to that when you're being authentic and you're doing something that you do authentically, genuinely care about, that comes out more. Yeah. So, yeah, if you're just going to put out the cookie cutter thing, that may make some money, that may work for a limited amount of time, you know, whatever that scenario is, but one of two things happens. It burns itself out, or you feel so empty and dead inside because you're doing something you really don't care about and you're faking your way through it, that you can't sustain that. Right. You know? Right. It's just, I mean, I couldn't. I don't know. Maybe some people, their whole life is that. But
no, I agree.
I have to be authentic with what I'm doing. And that's why I switch genres. That's why, you know, whatever. It's like, because that's what I want to do. That's what I feel. That's the story that bubbled up and needs to be told right now.
I think that, but I do think that's the only way you're going to get noticed these days is being authentic. People have been buying into bullshit for so long that people are starting to, like, that's why ads don't even work now. Like, you could take out ads or TV ads. No one fucking cares. Like, when's the last time you watched a TV ad and decided to make a decision on it? You didn't. But, I mean, I'm not saying you never do, but I guarantee more people are now making decisions based off of authentic conversations, you know, and people talking and just getting to know them. And you're right. It's a lot of fucking work to, like, I feel like even in this town, I was trying to be something that not that I was purposely trying to, I was trying to be professional and doing the right thing. And I don't mind that. But I was like, is that really fucking who I am? And I feel like, when I study marketers and I study people that I look up to, virtual mentors, they'll tell you being authentic to you is what is going to build your audience. That's where it's going to make you stand out because you can't be anything else. Right. But those fans will be your hardcore fans because they're like, this is the person I identify with. This is the person I want to be on this journey with. And people and it's scary because you're right. It's easy to hit be behind a cut and paste template, but I think it's more scary to stay safe. Like when you're in the safe zone, everything feels comfortable. You're not growing. You're not learning anything.
You're just stuck.
You got to just learn to be uncomfortable. But the more you're uncomfortable, the more comfortable you are with being uncomfortable. Does it make sense? Like you're just like, okay, I got to eat shit now. But like it gets maybe a little bit later, I'll put salt on the shit. And then, so.
Sauce.
Yeah, you just got to keep doing it. And I think that's the only thing that makes somebody who's a successful artist, filmmaker, whatever. I think what separates them is not that they didn't have the fear, not that they didn't have the small audiences. It was that they just kept
going,
being comfortable with eating shit for a while, but then they found their true voice, and then that's what took off. And it took years of that building and that crafting and falling on your face like fucking a million times a day and being like, why the fuck am I doing this? Because I'm there. I know. I'm like, why? I literally this whole entire month I was like, why the fuck am I a filmmaker? Why the fuck do I care? Why am I fucking making podcasts? But I was like, if there's no other way around it. There's not another fucking, like there's all these different paths.
Yeah.
But there's no other way other than just fucking eating shit and doing it. Like no one's gonna fucking give a fuck about your problems or how you feel about it. You know what I mean? Like you just gotta keep grinding at it. That's all there is to it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Eventually you get the formula right. And you hit the sweet spot and you've done something you're passionate about and you've built the audience that responds to it and it goes big out of the gate and that's it, and that's why everyone thinks that it's overnight success. And it's like bullshit. It's like, maybe the 10th book or, whatever was an overnight success, but here's all the crap that I waded through to get to that moment, and all of the work that went into building and growing and, counting pennies and being like, oh, that's 35 more cents for me.
Right.
I mean, that's just like, that's literally it, just being
small victories. That's what you have to, you got to enjoy the small victories though.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you only focus on, getting my book optioned by some big Hollywood studio and made into a movie, if that's the only focus, then all the other stuff that happens along the way doesn't have any value or reward. I'm never going to stay at it long enough, to get to that point. So it's like, it's like you got to be excited about the illustration, be excited about somebody emailing you and saying they like the cover of your book, whatever. It's like just every little thing along the way, it's just you complete writing for a day. Some days it's just that. It's just like, okay, this is happening.
Right.
All right. It's just like, 1,000 words is still 1,000 words.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up here really quick, but if the podcast makes it to the 3rd year, what are we looking forward to in the next year? Our next conversation.
Okay. Well,
what's already happened in our 3rd year? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll cut straight to this in 3rd year anniversary. The rest of the Hawthorne series will be finished, so those 8 books will be out. My standalone kind of romantic mystery novel, Fractured Lives, will be out. And I will definitely be making a profit on my books at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
cool.
This is the year to hit break even, and then by then I would say we'll be actually making a profit.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna hold you to it. So, if people want to find out more about you and your books and what you're doing, how can people find out about you?
My website is ruescorner.com, RUES corner.com.
Okay,
So
and just like usual, I'll have that in the show notes, but just to have it out there. So, Ruth, thank you again. It's been
You're
2
welcome.
years. I mean, you were my very first guest. I think we've come a long
Woohoo.
way from the shitty ass interview I did before. Hopefully, so but go back and listen to it because you had a lot of great stuff to say, but don't listen to me. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So. But anyways, hopefully, I mean, maybe we can get you on sooner. If you got anything big going on or whatever, if you need promotion, like I'd love to have you on the show. It's always a great conversation.
All right.
But definitely the next year anniversary, tune in. We're gonna find out what's going on, where we're at. So.
We'll bring the spreadsheets. We'll be like, look, this is the sales. Perf, off the charts.
Or it like went tanked all the way
Yeah,
down.
like
Like, fuck it, I'm done. I don't want to be on the podcast anymore. So hopefully I still have a fucking podcast.
So I'm a janitor now.
Well, anyways, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. So,
You're welcome.
anyways, I'm Ben Fama Jr. Thank you guys for joining me today. And make sure you check out my website at benfamajr.com. We will have all the show notes, everything we've been talking about in the links. Make sure you check out Amazon, check out all the work that she's doing. And we will see you next week. Peace out.
You've been listening to Reality Trip with Ben Fama Jr. Check out more great content by visiting benfama